I just thought I'd spend a few minutes walking you through how I have my 7D set up. It's nice to have a kind of default setup so that you know when you walk into a situation you've kind of got it set up the way that you like it, and then you can kind of adjust things from that point of view. There's nothing worse than sort of getting through a shoot and sort of thinking, oh, I had my ISO settings set wrong, or I had the aperture set in the wrong spot or whatever. So this is the way I set mine up by default, and then sort of work from there. You'll notice I've got the dial here set on aperture priority or AV mode. That's the place where I normally start. Of course, do a lot of shooting now with in manual mode as well. I don't use TV or shutter priority very often at all. I very rarely use the auto at all, and I do have some of these functions set up on these custom functions set up for HDR and so forth, but we can go through that at another time. So set it on AV, and let's just have a look at the other settings as well. So I like to have my ISO set on 100, the lowest possible ISO. I like to have it fixed there rather than let the camera choose the ISO using auto. And then what I'm using is I'll manually adjust the ISO depending on the shutter speed that comes up, having the aperture set the way that I have it set. Typically start the aperture on 2.8, although I'm finding that you get the best quality photos if you just set a couple of notches up from the minimum aperture, or the smallest number, largest aperture of the lens that you happen to have at the time. I've got my 24-70 on at the moment, 2.8, it's an L series lens. We'll look at that at some other stage. So 3.5, not a bad place to start, and we're pretty well ready to go. The other thing I have is the camera set up to do back button focusing. So I have the AF on button for my autofocus as well, rather than having the button set here. Comes by default out of the factory, sort of a half press of the button and the autofocus kicks in. I'm just experimenting now and finding some value in using back button focusing instead. Just some of the other settings that I have set up on here as well. Just looking at the back, quick menu at the back here. I use Spot AF for focusing. I've just found that to be a bit better. I also have auto white balance on and evaluative metering. I'm shooting in RAW all the time. I don't worry about JPEG, so some of the other settings for colour and so forth I don't really worry about. I'm set up on AI Servo. I change that depending on what I'm actually doing. Similarly with the high speed, I'm typically normally only use a single shooting rather than high speed. Last place I was at, I just had it on high speed, and that's pretty well the major settings that I have at the back as well.